Todd Shellnut back today with CFI Pro, and we're going to finish up some of our reg stuff today in regards to what can I do to help you better to memorize and to understand what's going on in these regs. Well, here's another pro tip that I like to talk about, and that is when I am discussing these regulations, I know that about the subparts and what's contained within the subparts because I've already watched all the videos on the rest of my YouTube channel. And but what are we doing? What does our job contain? You know, what are we out there doing on a daily basis? Well, it's not in subpart A, it's not in subpart B, it's partially in subpart C, yes, but it's going to be in what you're actually shooting for. So let's say, for instance, that I'm shooting for a private pilot, and so I want to show you some tips and tricks that I know how to sound very professional in a check ride, and I can memorize very quickly where to access information so that way I don't get lost in talking to an examiner about the certification of airmen. And here it is. There's a little kind of a redundancy in the regulations. It really kind of helps you learn it. And if you look here, you have these regs. You know, here's subpart E, which is private pilots, and it's in the 100s, the low 100s, and the commercial pilots are in the 120s, and the flight instructor is in the 180s. Now, we don't have to worry about ATP. Why? Well, because the PTS says you don't have to worry about ATP because that's a self-endorsed check ride, and we really don't even care about that as flight instructors. If we look at this subpart E for private pilots, you can see that it says applicability, eligibility, aeronautical knowledge, flight proficiency, aeronautical experience, night flight. So right down through 2 through 10. And look down here at commercial. Look, same stuff. Applicability, eligibility, aeronautical flight, exception night flying. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when I first start talking to a person to be a private pilot, I want to see what is the applicability to this reg. And so I would click on that and go, okay, so what does this mean? This reg, subpart E, this subpart prescribes the requirements for the issuance of private pilot certificates and ratings, the conditions under which those certificates and ratings are necessary, and the general operating rules for persons. There we go. For persons who hold those certificates or ratings. Okay, so that is the applicability. And it's on every single subpart has an applicability. But what we really care about is this very first part, which is eligibility. And eligibility appears in every single one. If it's in the 100s, it'll be a 103 for eligibility. If it is in commercial, it'll be a 123 for eligibility. There's eligibility for requirements for a commercial pilot. If it is in the flight instructor, it's 183. So it doesn't matter which one it is. If it ends in a 3, 103, 123, 183, that is eligibility. So when you see a 3, think eligibility. See a 3, think eligibility. Or however you want to say it. That's how I memorize it. I like that. I like the rhyming stuff part. It makes me feel happy. And then we have aeronautical knowledge. So, okay, so you're looking at this and you're like, all right, do you meet all the eligibility requirements? Well, let's see. Are you 17 years of age? Can you read, speak, write, and understand the English language? Have you received a logbook endorsement? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, well then you're eligible to be a private pilot. That's just the eligibility to actually walk into the check ride. Okay? The eligibility to walk into a check ride, not to actually start the training. To start the training would be back up in subpart C for student pilots. That's to start the training because you'd be a student pilot when you started. That's for private pilot. Of course, commercial pilot would have a different, where would you start at commercial? Well, you're already a private. You're probably maybe private instrument, you'd have to go there to figure out. Where would you go? 123, because 123 is eligibility. And then we have the 105. So I want to know what books to open up. What knowledge do I need to know? What is my aeronautical knowledge that I need to know? Remember, whenever you think aeronautical knowledge, you think of book work. So 5 deals with the books. So I've got to be able to open up a book on 105. So here's everything that I have to know to be a private pilot. Air accident reporting, use of the AIM, VFR charts, radio comm procedures, weather, wake turbulence avoidance, density altitude, all this stuff you have to know to be a private pilot. And it's also the same for commercial. We scroll down here, there's a same, and it's almost the same exact, look at that, it's almost the same exact thing there for commercial, almost the same exact information. And then what do we do next? Well, we've done we know we're okay to be there, where we can start our training. We know exactly what to study in our books, and this is exactly what we do in our flight. Now, this is a big, long reg, but what's the best thing for you? Well, only a little bit applies to you, because you have to remember what I told you earlier. Not all of these regs apply to you. Only a certain amount of regs apply to you. And if you look here, 127, paragraph A is just general, just like who does this apply to? And then B1 is only for airplane category with single engine class rating. That's it. So you only have to know BI through XI. That's it. If you're going to train for a multi-engine private, well, there's Bravo 2 is what you have to know. And if you're going to train for a rotorcraft, well, that's Bravo 3, and so on and so on and so on. So literally, if you look at this, the only thing that would apply to you if you're a single engine CFI is literally Bravo 1. So a whole big long reg and only this amount. Let's see if I can highlight that whole entire thing. I don't think I can, but yeah, I just missed out on one. So literally just what I have highlighted there is what you need to know. These things, I'm tempted to do this, yes. All right, these things, that's what you have to do in the flight. And you know, I tell you what's really cool about this? If you look at the layout of this, pre-flight and all that good stuff there, do you see any coincidence in that? If you said the layout of the Airman Certification Standards for private pilot, you are absolutely correct, because they mimic these items here. These are exact same items that appear in the ACS. And again, it's down in 127 as well, so if you want to see exactly what flight maneuvers, you got to do that, and it's laid out exactly the same. 127, it doesn't matter if it's 107 or 127 or 187, it does not matter. 127's the 7. Bravo 1 is all single engine. Bravo 2, multi-engine, and so on and so on and so on. And then we go to the how much flight time do you need? So we have it up here for private, and that is aeronautical experience, or basically the flight time, and big long reg, but what's the cool thing about it? Only one part applies to you. So here, 109 alpha for an airplane single engine rating. So only alpha applies to you. So if we scroll down just a little bit here, right to this point here, this stuff actually does not. This is for multi-engine. So you only need to know the stuff here, right there. Well, not that. That was too much. Anyway, just a little bit. It's not that much. And if you break this down, you can write this actually down on a piece of paper. And I like to write it down in like an indent. You know, matter of fact, I'll put a little study sheet at the bottom of this YouTube video for you studying how to memorize flight time. My gift to you. Then you can practice writing in the flight time for single engine airplane. That's the only one I'll put on here. I won't put multi-engine. Single engine airplane is what you'll put on. Is what you'll put the flight times on there. And you can just go down through this reg and write in the flight times for that, and you'll be a pro at doing that. So that's really it that I wanted to share with you today. 3, 5, 7, and 9. 3 is eligibility. 5 is bookwork. Flight is what you have to do in the airplane, and 109 is the required flight time that you would need. And that is going to help you to get started in knowing where you need to go. If you're in the check ride and the examiner says, okay, what is the required flight time for a private pilot? Well, you know that 9 is flight time, and so you could say, well, sir, in accordance with 61109, it is blah, 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 blah. Or you would say, I don't have it completely memorized, but I know that it's in 61109 alpha, 61109 alpha 1 is single engine. And it goes down to the same even for the airline transport pilot, which you don't really need to know, and the same for flight instructors, which you do need to know, 3, 5, 7, and here is the only exception, which is the 9 in flight instructor. Why? Why is it that it doesn't list flight time here in 189? Well, because there's no time requirement to be a flight instructor, but there is. Now, what do you mean by that, Todd? Let's close out today's training session by what do I mean by that? Well, because The FAA doesn't specifically list a required time that you need to be a flight instructor in regards to the training. Now, if you said, well, you got to have a commercial pilot certificate for airplane, and that's 250 hours. Yeah, I got that. As part of the eligibility requirements. I got you. But as far as the flight time that you need in the flight instructor program, there is not a requirement. There is not a requirement for that. But it can't be zero. It absolutely positively cannot be zero. You cannot go to any check ride with zero preparation for the check ride. So although we don't have any flight time requirements for the flight instructor, try to go to a check ride with no flight time in preparation for this check ride and see if the examiner will let you even start the check ride. I hope this helps you out. Please post any comments or questions that you have right down below. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell notification to be notified of future videos. I'm Todd Shelnut with CFI Pro. Have a great week. Bye-bye.